Hello everybody, welcome to Snickerdoodle Stitch. My name is Kathleen and this is a channel about cross stitch. If it's your first time here, thanks so much for joining me. I'm glad you came to stop by and see what I've been stitching and how Stitch North was. And if you're a returning viewer, thanks so much for coming back to visit with me again. I have a ton to share this time. I went to Stitch North since my last regular video. I did a video on making project bags, and I forgot when I did that video, I need to give credit to Miss Andrea Quilts. So it's my friend Andrea who teaches classes at a quilt shop, the Old Country Store nearby. She teaches other places too, but I would say that's the place that it's easiest to find classes with her. And she's a fantastic quilt teacher, and if you ever have an opportunity to see one of her, what would you call it? She brings tons of her quilts, and it's really just looking at her quilts over the years, and they are beautiful. But she is where I learned to make the plastic front project bags. I've modified the process some over the years. Yeah, it's been years now. But credit to her. And she does have an Instagram with beautiful cross stitch and quilts. She does cross stitch as well. She doesn't have a YouTube, but she has an Instagram. Before I get started, I do have a giveaway today, so I wanted to do that up front. At Stitch North, they gave us goodie bags when we checked in, and oh my God, the goodies were amazing. I'm going to show some of them. I think after the stitching, I'll do that in the haul. But one thing that was in our bag was a Stitcher's Garden from Tiny Modernist. And I actually have two of these. And I have this pattern already. I had been meaning to stitch it, but since I have two that I ended up with from there, I'm going to give these away. So leave a comment with the word tiny, and in 2 weeks I'll draw winners to announce at my next video. So tiny, if you want a chance to win either one of these, so there'll be two winners. I love that pattern. It's just so cute. I'm not sure why it hasn't made it into my rotation yet. Well, I kind of do because I've just got too many patterns, but and I bought a lot more Tiny Modernist patterns. She was at the retreat, so she was in the vendor area. So I'll have more patterns of hers to show during the haul, but these two I'm giving away. And then I am also giving away a piece of fabric. It is from Bestitch Me, and the color is Sand Dollar, and it's a fat quarter 32 count, and I'm gonna hold it up. Someone will love this. It is a little more mottled than what I actually prefer. And so I decided to go ahead and give this one away here. So for this one, just put sand somewhere in your comment. I was going to say Sand Dollar, but then it's the whole confusion about, do I do it as one word or two words, or just get the word sand in there. So tiny if you want a chance at the patterns, sand if you want a chance at the fabric. Again, it's from Bestitch Me, 32 count, called Sand Dollar. So the word sand. All right, let me put those on my desk so that I don't forget that I've got a giveaway happening there. A little bit of retreat talk before I jump into my stitching. So I drove up. It's about an 8-hour drive for me. It can be longer, but I was the only car crossing the border from the US into Canada, and I was one of about 4 crossing back from Canada into the US. So the traffic at the border is down. So it made my trip only about 8 hours. And then I drove to New York and stayed overnight in New York, and then went into Canada the Thursday before the retreat started Friday morning. And Thursday I went to Gita's, which is a lovely shop. They do needlepoint and cross stitch in Mississipagua. I'm going to mispronounce it. I should have looked it up before I started this. Sorry, gang. It's next to Brampton, which is where the retreat is. They're both suburbs of Toronto, I would call them. Beautiful shop. I went there when I went to Stitch North 2 years ago, and she brings a lot of European designers in. So there's different patterns. She also has their own line of patterns, and I bought some of hers last year. I didn't buy any of their own patterns this year, but I only bought a few things there. And then I was at the retreat until Sunday. When the retreat ended at noon on Sunday, I did go into Toronto. I went to Casa Loma, which is a big castle built in the early 1900s. So I toured that Sunday afternoon, and then the weather became rainy, and honestly, it rained the rest of the week. On my trip back, I swung by Hobby House and stayed in that area overnight one night. I bought a couple things at Hobby House. Didn't go too crazy there. It was my first time visiting them at their new location, and it's huge and gorgeous, but it was cloudy that day, so the lighting was not great. But it was nice. They have a really nice fabric area, quilt shop, and then they've got a whole area that's really just patterns and floss, and then they have an entire room which is cross stitch fabric. I did only buy one piece there. I was well behaved, but that was in part because I had bought more fabric than was supposed to, than I had allowed myself at Stitch North. So, yeah. And then I came back down through Pennsylvania. I spent a couple days in Lewisburg doing some antiquing. I bought some cool things there. I'm probably not going to show any of that stuff today. I'm probably just going to stick to what I've been stitching in the Stitch North stuff, and then the things from Gita's Hobby House or my antiquing, because there is a couple things there that are stitch related. I'll show my next video. Otherwise, I think this video is going to be way too long. My table mates were fantastic at Stitch North. I had Cindy next to me. Cindy's a retired CEO. She and I hit it off, and I had 4 younger stitchers. They reminded me of my nieces at the table with us, and they were a lot of fun. They all 4 are Flosstubers. So the Museum Stitcher, the Kitty Stitcher, Frizzy Lizzie Stitches, and what is Cam's channel? Cam the Stitcher. I'll put their Flosstube links in below. They were very focused on sampler stitching, and it always fascinates me to see much younger stitchers stitching, sorry for all you sampler stitchers out there, what I think of as old lady pieces. And I stitch samplers. I'm an old lady. I'm talking about my own age group. I can say old lady. But yeah, they were a lot of fun to be at the table with them. They did some knitting. It was fun to see them pick out floss. So this time, unlike 2 years ago, they had the full line of Roxy Flossco flosses there. And their flosses are so brilliantly colored. They're very deep, rich colors, unlike other lines that I've seen. And so their floss is a lot of fun, but it was fun watching them pick out flosses to use for different patterns, and the fabrics that they were using were much bolder than what some stitchers would pick. So I had fun at the table with them. And I did get to meet a couple people that have viewed my channel. One viewer, I'm not going to mention her name because I can't remember if I asked her if it was okay if I did, but she said she had been watching the channel from the beginning, and she gave me this really sweet, I love this. I've had it hanging on my monitor so that I could see it all week. It is stitched, and then on the back it says 2025. I'm not sure if you can tell. Let me see if I cover my face, if it's clear. That's a little clear. It's 2 pieces of linen, maybe even weave, high count even weave, and then they're stitched together with the edges frayed. I think it's very clever what she did with that, but it was so much fun meeting her. So thank you for this. Like I said, I've had it hanging on the corner of my monitor over here where I work so that I see it all day, every day since I got back. All right, let's leap into stitching now. And then I will go into haul and some giveaway stuff. Other than this, I wanted to share this early in the video to make sure and recognize her. So the first thing I'm going to show, I actually finished before I left. I had planned on taking this, and when I was gathering things to go, I pulled out Annie Bayliss, God Save the Queen, and I pulled it out. This is from Hands Across the Sea. It's one of, maybe my only Hands Across the Sea pattern. I wanted to try one of their patterns, and I picked this up, not realizing how small it actually is, and also not realizing, because I did a download purchase of it, that most of this is 1/1. So the only thing that's 2/2 is this zigzaggy U-shaped border that goes all the way around, and this top alphabet. The rest of this bad boy is 1/1. So when I pulled it out, I had a lot of it done, and I wanted to take it because I had worked on it at Stitch North last time, and I knew I was close to finishing and that I could finish it there. But then when I looked at it, I realized I've got it on 32 count linen, and it's 1/1, and I wasn't sure that I wanted to deal with that. No, I couldn't remember what the lighting was like. The lighting was actually very good there. I didn't even pull out my travel light. I used my little clip-on magnifier glasses, but I couldn't remember what the lighting was like, or just the whole setup. So I decided not to take it, but I finished it before I left. At least I finished it as much as I was going to. So in the pattern itself, there's additional stuff in these white spaces here, but I don't think you can tell on the pattern. I kind of giggle when I look at this because what it looks like is a beginning stitcher just trying to fill in the space. And so they've just put X's in and some other really weird little things. There's this whole block at the bottom that's just solid. It was like they had to stitch on every millimeter of this fabric. But it's not a motif or anything. It's just this kind of crazy fill-in. I did some of it here, but I opted to just leave these blank. This bottom was just all filled in, but I had pulled off Hands Across the Sea, had a free, I think it was not necessarily designed for this, but they had a free pattern to do Queen Elizabeth, and I put her years in here. So here it is up close. It is stitched with Gloriana Poinsettia. And like I said, it's on 32 count, just plain white linen. I started this for the Jubilee. And I did work on it at Stitch North. I think when I was at Stitch North, it was the weekend of Prince Charles's coronation. And so it was fitting to be working on it in Canada that weekend. So I had in my head that I would finish it there, but then I decided that wasn't going to happen because I was down to the point that was 1/1. Yeah, it's all 1/1 except for that very top part. And this is a pretty small stitch on 32 count. It's maybe, I don't know, 5x8. I think it's longer than 5x7. It might be about 5x7. Yeah, so that was for my red and white wall, but when I bought the pattern, I didn't realize it was going to be this small. So that's going to be the challenge with my red and white wall, is that a couple of all of the pieces that I have, they're bigger. The others that I have are bigger than that one, but not by much. This next one I took to Stitch North and I finished it there, and I don't have the pattern in here. I think I actually put the pattern away already because it was all done except all of this green fill in. So this is from Hello from Liz Matthews. I don't remember the name of the piece. I think it's like from my garden. And it was the green background and this kind of wonky scalloped edge that had originally caught my eye on it. But I will tell you, that green is a lot, man. So I took it to the retreat thinking this would be one day of stitching to finish this. It ended up being all of Friday and a good chunk of Saturday. And then thankfully I did get it done. This is on 32 count. I don't know what fabric this is on. It may be cream and sugar, although it looks a little darker than cream and sugar. Might be milk and honey. I think it's a fiber on the whim. But yeah, filling that dark green in is a lot of work. I don't know how many stitches it is. I had it down to maybe here filled in. So it was the part below. I had the scalloped edge done and the edge row so that it was literally just fill in. That's why I don't have the pattern, because I had put it away already. I think when I finished doing all of the outlining and all that was left was a fill in. But yeah, filling in that green is no joke. But I'm really happy with that. When I was antiquing, I'm going to show one thing I got. I picked up an oval frame thinking that I would use it, and the fabric is just big enough that I could make it work, but I think the frame is too big. So I'm going to have to keep this for something else. I'm sure the antique store would have been horrified. The thing that's in here is a fan from the Selins Grove Fair from 1947. And somebody had 2 of the fans framed, and I just wanted the frame. So I plan to deconstruct everything else, but I won't be using the frame for this piece because it's too big. So I'm going to have to keep looking. This is bigger than a 5x7 will work. So I think I'm going to look at Marshall's and see if they have any 8x10 oval frames. I know I've seen oval frames there before, and they actually have one showing up online. I just don't know if they're going to be in the store or not. And I don't want to pay a lot for the frame, but so we'll see what I can find. This next one, I started this, and I know I didn't show this before. I started it when I went to Alexandria, Virginia, to Woodlawn, to the needlework show there, and I got down there and realized that the project I had taken with me, I didn't have a needle, I didn't have something else. It was like I planned really poorly for stitching at the hotel, but I had bought this kit at the stitching post, and so I decided to go ahead and start it when I was there. It's one of the Satsuma Street ornaments, and it's called Winter Break, and it's a mouse, which is why I picked it out. On this, the mouse has a pink tail. I will tell you, I made the mouse tail gray. To me, the pink tails always make me think of rats, not mice. Not that I like either one of them in real life, but I'm trying to find something to hold this up with. Behind it, because light's going to show through the perforated paper. But mice don't really have pink tails. They're sort of furry. And so, at least the field mice that we get. So, I worked on this a little bit more, and I've made good progress. The mouse is all done, and I've started on the ornament that he's against. Let's see if I can get rid of the shadow there. So he's going to go pretty quickly now. I haven't started any of the beading, but probably taking him on one more trip somewhere, and he will get finished. And I love perforated paper projects for travel. It does not bother. I know a lot of people don't like working on perforated paper, or they now like it now that there's the holders. I love working on perforated paper and not having to haul along a hoop or anything when I'm traveling. This one little bag, and all I have to remember to take is a little pair of scissors. The kits come with the needles that you need and everything else. So you are good to go if you remember scissors. I have forgotten scissors before. I have them now in my makeup bag so that whenever I'm traveling, if I forget to put one with my stitching, there's at least one of those little tiny pairs of scissors in my makeup bag. So the only thing I've got a skein of 321 and 3801 thrown in here. I don't know if I'm going to do this as hot pink or if I'm going to do it as red. I may change the colors up on the ornament. But, yeah. So Satsuma Street, winter break. I just cleaned out a bunch of I have a chest of drawers next to my stitchy seat, and it's everything from scissors and needles and hoops and my DMC color card and floss drops that don't have anything on them. I mean, they're ready to use in a project. All of the paraphernalia that we might have is in this chest of drawers, so it's right there by my stitchy spot, but it had become a little disorganized over time. The two bottom drawers are a little hard to reach because I can't lean over the arm of my chair, and there's another sofa that's right perpendicular to what I sit on. So it's a little tricky to get in and out of the two bottom drawers. So things have become a bit of a disaster. So I cleaned all that out. And the very bottom drawer actually has my Mill Hill and Satsuma Street kits that are new to be stitched. And I didn't remember that I had a few other Satsuma Street kits. So I'll be breaking those out. They're maybe a little bit faster to stitch than the Mill Hill. There's less color variation. Like Mill Hill has a lot of shading happening and color blending where you're taking one strand of this and one strand of white and one strand of very light gray, and then you're doing very light gray, and then you're doing light gray, and then you're doing medium gray, and this mouse would have like 6 colors in him or blends. So I think the Mill Hills are a little more time intensive to stitch. The Satsuma Streets are really quick stitches, so I gotta remember that too. This next one I started. I've got way too many starts this time. I do have the 2 finishes, but I started more than 2 things. I'll be honest. I've got a couple starts that I want to start imminently. This is the January 2024. Oh, sorry. It's actually the December 23 issue of Just Cross Stitch. And this pattern is by Hannah Dale. And I have some fabric with Hannah Dale critters on it. She does lots of baby animals. And I love that little kitty. Seazook Stitch is also stitching this. I remember seeing this on her channel. This is another one that's no joke with the color changes and the confetti, but I started it and I got the whole little kitten face done. So it's about a third finished. The slipper is pretty big and it's got that big furry cuff on it. Their model was stitched on fabric from both the threads, and you can't buy it here in the States. I'm guessing you can maybe get it overseas. I am doing this on 32 count even weave splash, and Hobby Lobby used to sell this. They've discontinued it. I bought a ton of it when they discontinued it. But when I saw that theirs was stitched on a fabric which had kind of a speckled background, and her fabric lines for quilting have that too. So if you've seen her quilting fabrics, you know what I mean by the speckled background. But this splash is white and it has very pale pink splatters on it. They're not showing up as pink. Well, maybe a little bit there. This was a lot of confetti stitching. A lot of confetti stitching. But other than that, it's a fun stitch. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's probably gonna go in my bedroom when I get it done. I'll frame it, but that little kitten is so sweet. Splash isn't a true white. It's more like an antique white with the pink splatters. So we worked on that. And then now I have a couple patterns that I bought. So they're new starts. This is Jardin Prive Spiral, and I bought it from Pastime Pieces, which was one of the vendors that was at Stitch North. And I love Jardin Prive patterns, and I was digging through her. She had a bunch of patterns from French designers. So I was digging through, and I don't think I've ever seen this before. So it's a single color stitch, and I am doing it on, I partly bought it because I bought this Sea Party fabric, and then I wanted to stitch something on it. And so that's upside down. And so I started this. This is Roxy Floss Co Floss, as well as the Sea Party fabric. There's more of the color of the Sea Party fabric. Oh, it does show up okay. So it's a different color combination than what I would normally do. And I really liked the green against this teal. I wasn't sure how well it was going to show up, but I'm thinking that's okay. So again, this is Roxy Floss Co fabric called Sea Party. I was glad to see, I remembered 2 years ago, she said, I'm not a fabric dyer, I'm a floss dyer, but I have some dyed fabric. And she has moved into having a lot of dyed fabric, beautiful colors, and very consistent colors. So this one I really liked. And very subtle modeling, which is my thing. So I worked on that Friday after I finished the dark green fill-in on that Hello from Liz Matthews bouquet of flowers, that oval piece. All right, this next one I didn't buy there. I had this in my stash already, and I started it right after I got back. It's Jan Hicks Creates Carnival. This is the pattern. I have never seen this stitched, but I love the bright colors in the pattern. And Kitty Stitch, I think. It was one of the stitchers at my table. Kitty Stitch, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. She had stitched this on 40 count. She had like the top third done. It was gorgeous. And as soon as I saw it, I said, oh, I know what that is. And I have that pattern at home. Now you've inspired me. I need to break that out and stitch it. So I did break it out. I didn't get very far, but it was a few nights of stitching. Mine is on 32 count white Jobelin. I liked hers better on the 40 count. So I'm a little torn on it. I think I'm going to finish this border and then decide Do I want to attempt to do it on 40? It's a lot of stitching. It's very heavily stitched in here. I mean, I guess you can tell looking at the pattern. There's not a lot of weight space on this. And I don't know that I have the patience to do that much on 40 count. But I really liked hers on 40 count. I like this okay. I just don't like it as much. And I could go to 36 count. I can see better, but I don't really love one strand of thread on 36 count. It always looks a little too sparse to me. So that's how I ended up with the 32 count. And this is antique white. Oh, that was the other reason I ended up with this, because I was limited in what I actually had an antique white that wasn't a true pure white, and I wanted antique white. So that's that piece. Let me hold it up closer. Not sure it looks like much up close, but you can see it's done stitching even for that border, and that border goes all the way around this piece. And this piece is going to be, my fabric's folded in half. And I'm down, I mean, I cut this fabric to fit with 3 inches on each side. So it's going to be a pretty darn big piece. And very densely stitched. But the colors are gorgeous. Once I get some, I should have brought the floss in. I've got it on floss drops, because it's only like 8 flosses and it's all DMC. But once you get like this corner here, once you get these oranges and greens in here, this whole thing just, oh my God, it was gorgeous. I may just continue on with that one. I don't know, we'll see. All right. This is my last, sorry, my holder is blocking the time. How much time we've been talking. This next piece, I worked on this, so 2 years ago was my first retreats, and I did several that year, and I worked on this at each retreat that I went to. And it's Madame Chantilly, Notte di Stelle, and I love this piece. The saying on here is in French. They have it charted in French, Italian, and English. I'm doing mine in French, and it's an Oscar Wilde quote that's, it's important to have dreams big enough to not lose sight of them, or not lose sight of their pursuit or chasing them, something like that. I am doing this on, I think it's 32 count. It's Nantucket Sky, which is from Fabrics by Stephanie. It is on an even weave, and I am almost done. So I did this, I did from like this leaf on over, I did all of this, all of the stars, and the little foot. There was a reason I did the little foot. At the retreat, I did this part and all of this. When I came back and I was home, I put the stars in because they required a lot of counting or guesstimation to get in the right spots. And then I put the foot in because my plan is to take this to my next retreat, and the girl will be great stitching to do there because it's a lot more solid. Like I would do her legs, and then she's got that pretty solid dress. And so it's good low counting stitching to do at a retreat. And this might be 28 count. I'm not sure. I can tell instantly looking at linen, but the even weave always throws me. Yeah, I'm loving this piece. And I love this Nantucket Sky. And I wanted to get some linen from Stephanie. And then I saw some when I was at Stitching in the Wild last year, and the linen, of course, the color is different. And I love the modeling and the colors on the even weave. It looks like, you know, a cloudy, puffy sky. And so I'm going to pick up some more of this, I think, in even weave. I actually find linen easier to work on than even weave, but I like the way the even weave dye takes the dye for this. But so this is almost done. I'm very excited with that. I feel like it's not my oldest piece, but I feel like it is, or like it's one of my older pieces. But I can't wait to get that done and have it framed, and I'm going to hang that in my family room with my stitchy spot. All right, let's get into some haul. So this was just something funny. Lizzie Stitches had made these little, you know, it looks like one of the little dogs you make out of balloons, but it's with beads. That's cute. It's been sitting on my desk too. Oh, I forgot I was gonna get that away. Oh, okay, not retreat related, but whenever I travel anywhere, even sometimes within the US, if I'm far enough away from the East Coast, like if I go Midwest onward west, or even to like Chicago further, well, not Chicago, I've gone there so much for work that I know what to expect, but one of my favorite things is to go to the grocery store, and it's because there are different foods that are only available in certain regions, and especially when you're outside of the US or overseas, the grocery store experience is just very different. And they have a lot of foods that we don't have. So I'm often going looking for chocolate. Like I had to buy some Cadbury chocolate when I was in Canada because theirs is far superior to the mess that Hershey's makes in the US. I'm not a Hershey's fan, which is sacrilege in this area because Hershey, PA is an hour and 15 minutes from here. But I don't like their chocolate, except for Reese's Cups. But you're mostly tasting the peanut butter. It's not really the chocolate that's my favorite part. Anyway, I'm digressing. I went to the grocery store to check things out. I wanted some Cadbury chocolate. I like to look at the packaged snack cakes. Like here we have brand Little Debbie, or we have Hostess. It's different brands in Canada, and they're completely different kind of little snack cake things. So I picked some of them up for my dad. But the other thing that I pick up that I was so excited about, and I'm always excited about, I knew they sold this in Canada. When I was a kid, my favorite cake mix or cake was cherry. So that's what I got every year for my birthday. My mom made a cherry cake mix. You could buy it in any grocery store. Multiple brands sold cherry cake mix. It was standard. Somewhere in my early teens, it started disappearing here. Like it was down to one brand and then there was none. You cannot buy cherry cake mix in the US. Not in a normal grocery store. Not in a normal grocery store. I have bought cherry cake mix in the US, but it was cake mix that was made and labeled and everything for Canada, and it was like an overstock kind of grocery store. But in Canada, Betty Crocker cherry cake mix. So I did buy 3 cake mixes when I was in Canada, and I'm very excited to have some cherry cake mixes because I've long since made and eaten the 3 that I bought, 3 or 4, however many I bought. I bought 3 this time because they had a sale, 3 for whatever. But I've long since eaten what I bought when I was there 2 years ago. All right, my haul stuff. I participated in the Smalls Exchange, And I was so thrilled. I got, this was the small that I got. Is that not too cute? The funny thing was, Pastime Pieces had this stitched up as a model, and I was looking for the pattern, but she said she had only brought one with her and she had sold it already. It's a Shannon Christine or Erin Elizabeth design. I can't remember which, and it doesn't say on here. I know it's one of those two. But it was so cute and all framed up. And the funny thing was, the person that got or that made it was sitting at the table right next to me. Like if I leaned over, I probably could have touched her. And I made a jar, and my friend Jane, who's from the US, who I sat with at Stitch, New Jersey, I've run into her and Chris. Jane is half of the Boss Stitchers on YouTube, on Flosstube. And I've run into Chris and Jane at multiple retreats, Stitch New England, but I sat with them at Stitch New Jersey 2 years ago. And Jane is who got my jar that I had made. So I did the jar with 1/1 stitching of one of the JBW Stitching in the Round pieces, and she won that, and I got this. So I was thrilled with this. Love it, love it, love it. All right, at my table, well, I gave to everybody a set of floss drops. That's my old cat Jax, who I don't have anymore. But when I was digging for photos to make floss drops with, he was a very photogenic cat. This isn't the photo that I was trying to find, but this one worked. So everybody got floss drops. There's like 5 or 6 of them in there with Jax on it. And then for my table mates, I gave Primrose Cottage patterns. There were different ones for them to pick out. And I had a few flosses from the pattern in there. And then a few of these spool huggers is what they really are. But they're great for holding the fabric down on your Q-snap frame. Or even, I've just used it, you know, you can just put it around fabric that you have bunched up. So even if you stitch in hand, if you want something to corral some fabric, this works in a pinch. And I bought a bag of 100 of them on Amazon, so I've been throwing them in everything. They're really cheap on Amazon. They're expensive at the quilt shops. On Amazon, you can get a bag of 100 for under 10 bucks. So that's what I gave to my table mates. Cindy gave us all, she was my table mate right next to me. She gave us all project bags. These were really cute, and I can always use a winter. I have several Christmas project bags that I've made, but I was short on winter, so I'm excited about this. And she's got pockets in here. So really, really sweet. So liking that. Cindy gave me lots of tips on quilt shops and a different route to take getting back from Pittsford and Hobby House down to Corning. I went to Corning and Corning Glass too one of my travels. I forgot to mention that. I'm gonna have an avalanche here. I can feel it. I lost my train of thought. Whatever. In our check-in bag, at least I think that's what this is all from. I think I bought this one. We had Floss from Hand Dyed by Rolanda. She had beautiful floss and fabric. She was there. And we had a Roxy Floss Co. This one is Elwood's. So it's got the pinks there. And then this one is from the sewing shop. It says it's DMC overdyed. The sewing shop. Why am I getting tongue twisted on that? had beautiful fabrics as well. Then each bag had a piece of, mine's linen, might be 40 count. Actually, you know what? That one might not be. I think this is from the bag. Mislead Pages. And it's a piece of even weave. I'm not sure if you can see the modeling on there. It's pink and there's hints of purple in it. It's mostly pink. I think this one I may have bought. They had some package, although I don't know why it's not still in the package. They had some Roxy Floss Co. Odd-sized pieces. So they said it was either pieces that were left over from cutting other stuff or cutting from the bigger pieces for them to have something that for a project that they were doing. So it was kind of their commercial scraps. And I bought a couple pieces of 40 count, and this is a very pale blush pink. And I think I bought this. I don't think this was in my bag. I'm just not sure why it's not still in the bag, the packaging. And then we got a really cute needle floss. I can't think what you call these things. Thread bed. And these were made by Gamma's Treasures. But just the details with the lace and the little buttons and the heart in here, it's just really sweet. And then the machine embroidery on the front. So I've got to look and see if Gamma's, oh yeah, it's Gamma's Treasures Shop, 2 S's in there on Etsy. And it's Gamma, Gamma. She's got the inside quilted. I don't know if you, yeah, you can see it there. The inside's quilted, the outside's not, because it's got the hand stitching on here. Just really nicely made. And this was in all of our giveaway bags. I had pre-ordered this. So beforehand, they sent the list of here's the vendors that will be there. And so I was checking out each vendor to see, you know, who's bringing what. Is there someone that I want to check out, you know, first thing that I think is going to be like the hot stuff. And when I looked at this vendor's website, it's Samply Stitched. So think like simply, but instead of the I-A, Samply Stitched. And when I looked on her website, this bag was on there, and I think it might have said only one left. And it's got all these cute mice on it with the Not a Creature Was Stirring. And so, of course, I had to have it since it had the mice. So I pre-ordered it. She does like a really nice quality leathery stuff at the bottom. I mean, pleather. It's not leather. Vinyl kind of leather feeling stuff. But it's very supple. It's nice. So I had ordered this bag through her Etsy shop, and she had free shipping. And so I messaged her right after placing the order and said, you know, if you want to save the shipping cost, I'm going to be at Stitch North weekend too. I can just pick it up there. So she replied back and said that she would make a scissor holder, something else, since she wasn't going to be incurring any shipping. And I'm like, no, don't worry about that. I'll just pick it up there. It's silly for you to pay to ship it to me here when I'm going to be there and can just pick it up. But look, the bag even has cute fabric inside. Just really nicely made little clip over here, and she put a little bobble on it. But she did make me a scissor keeper with it, with the same fabric. So I thought that was sweet. And when I went over and asked her, as soon as I walked over, and it was the second day, I forgot about it the first day. And then I don't know what happened, and I went, oh shoot, I ordered a bag that somebody's to have here for me. And as soon as I went up and said, I had done an order on your Etsy shop, she was like, oh, I've got it right here. So I'm obviously the only Yahoo that did that. But very sweet, and the bag is gorgeous. I mean, it's flawless. Her workmanship, top notch. Really, really top notch. So Samply Stitched, highly recommend. I also got this. I didn't buy this. It's another thread bed, and I don't remember where it's from. That's awful. I really can't remember. You know, you end up collecting so much stuff, and it's hard to come up with a method to keep track of it all when you're in the throes of the retreat, and I really don't remember who it's from. And then one of my table mates had made the Stitch North you know, thing for scissors or a project bag or whatever. I bought a bunch of Roxy Floss Co. flosses in blues. Like I said, their colors are very rich. Let me grab a piece of my white. Their colors are very, very rich. And I do like to do Quakers, which is a lot of the same color, not the same color family, like blues or greens, or but the different Quaker motifs in different blues or greens. Those are my two most common colors to do that with. And so I did pick out a bunch of blues, and actually this one's green. There's two of that one because it is a green that I love. It's not coming through on camera very well. Let me hold it back a little more. I think the color comes out better the farther I get away from the ring light. So I did buy that floss from Roxy Floss Co. It was dangerous. We sat at a table that was right in front of the shopping area. So we were literally right next to the big rack where both sides we were facing one side of it, of all of their flosses. And they've got like 400 different floss colors. It's a ton of floss colors. And then seeing them all just hanging there. Oh, that was bad temptation. I'm telling you. She is now also dyeing some trims. So this is very mottled, pale pink. This is not as mottled, but it's my green. And it's the mini pom-poms, so beautiful. I did buy those two trims. That's the word I wasn't thinking of. And then here's my fabric I got in trouble with. And I hate to say it, but I have an order coming from them. So I had done a pre-order. They had a retreat special pattern. So it was from Pansy Patch Quilts, and it was called Serendipity or Serendipity Stitching. And it was really cute. I like Pansy Patch Quilts samplers. I haven't stitched any yet, and I haven't seen any stitched, so it's the picked photos that I like, but they use pretty bright colors. And so I did a pre-order. My thinking was I was going to work on the dreams, the poppies on the cloudy fabric I was going to work on that. I was going to work on the green fill-in, and I was going to start the exclusive from Pansy Patch Quilts. So I pre-ordered it. I pre-ordered it with the Roxy Fleska floss and the fabric, and I ordered a couple other 1/8 of fabric, and that was everything. And when I went up to pick it up, and I gave her my name, and she looked, and she started to say, I don't have yours. And all of a sudden, she got this funny look, and she said, we brought yours last week. I was at weekend 2. They apparently had mine at weekend 1, and she's like, I called your name like 6 times last week. So, she's shipping it to me. So I didn't get to start that, which may have been a good thing because it forced me to finish the green. Otherwise, I was sick of that green after a day and a half to do it. I'd have probably bailed after day 1, and the green would still not be done. Anyway, I bought, this is 32 count. I think this is all 32 count. This is called Cloud Break. It's just a very nice gray. Not too purple, not too green. Just a nice gray. So I picked that up. I actually don't, I had depleted a lot of the gray in my stash. So I knew I didn't have much gray. That was one color that I was allowing myself to buy. I was also allowing myself to buy another piece of dirty porcelain. I bought a 1/4 yard of this when I was there 2 years ago, and it has been long gone. Dirty porcelain, yeah, it's not gonna come through on camera. Okay, getting back further is not helping. It is just a very nice cream, very subtle modeling. It's not too yellow. It's a beautiful fabric. They have another one called porcelain. I like the one called dirty porcelain a little better. It's a little bit darker. So I did buy a piece of that, and that was on my shopping list. So a gray and that. These next 3 were not on my shopping list. This one I don't have a tag for, and I don't know why. I noticed that when I was, you know, it might have been a one-off. I may have bought this in fact, I'm positive. It's the same as that other strip of pink. It's an odd-sized piece, and I think it's a one-off, and that's why it doesn't have a tag in it. It is more modeled than what I normally would like, but it's a very unique, there, that color's pretty accurate. It reminds me of Classic Colorworks Belle Soie silk in watermelon. It's sort of a, it's a peachy pink. It's still pink, it's not peach, but it's a warmer pink. That was one of the, I do know why that doesn't have a tag. I'm not losing my mind. This one I just bought an 1/8 of. This one is called Love Bug, and it was just called Modern, and then we saw that it was called Love Bug. So it was, if you're in their fabric of the month, it was the fabric of the month for their Modern club, and she had it there, and it's named Love Bug. So really pretty. Subtle modeling. It's a nice pink. I don't have much pink in my stash. I remember struggling for fabric when I was doing some Valentine stitching earlier this year. And then this last one, I don't know. This one just kept catching my eye. It's called Cherry Cobbler. I feel like this piece is bigger than... Oh dear. Okay, so I bought a fat quarter, but I don't, this looks like a half. Oh, okay, that color's pretty true. It's a burgundy. I think it's one of those that, depending what colors you put against it, it's gonna read more of a reddish brown. And with different colors with it, it's gonna read more of a like reddish purple. It's one of those odd colors that's gonna read differently depending on what it's up against. So whatever color floss I end up with here and the color of frame could influence how this color reads, or probably even what wall I hang it on. But really pretty color. And oh, can you, I'm picturing like a mirror on this, mirabilia. Yeah. Too much fabric, too many patterns, too little time. All right, that was everything. That was almost everything. I have one other piece of fabric that I bought from them, but it is in with a pattern that I kitted up already. So I went a little crazy buying patterns from Tiny Modernist. Some of these have been on my wish list for quite a while. I haven't let myself buy any Tiny Modernist for like the last 6 months because I knew I was going to Stitch North. So this first one is Mouse's Canada Day Ride. And I love my mice. And this one was fitting to buy since I was in Canada. And then this next one is Mouse's Beach Outing. So I got two of the small mouse patterns that I don't have. I have a few of these. I don't have all of the mouse patterns from her. I go back and forth on the way the mouse is floating out there. The mouse is floating in all of these patterns, but they're so cute. This next one is Make a Little Magic. I think this one originally might have been, I might be making things up. I was going to say this might have been a mystery at one time, but I love the little cat that's in there. It's just cute, and I think it would be a quick stitch. Yeah, see, on 14 count, it's only 6.5 by 8.5. This is a pretty small piece. All right, these next two, she's got these tradition samplers, which are like villages. So I got Summer Traditions. And again, up in front of that red house, I spotted that cute little black cat. But I like the Summer Traditions. And I got Spring Traditions. This one's Spring Traditions. It's just very bright and cheery. All of her pieces are. I love the colors she uses. And then the last one I got, this one I didn't actually get there, but I was digging through my stash. I was double checking that I hadn't bought anything that I already had. I didn't. I knew pretty well what I already have of hers. But this one was in my stash, and this one's called Forest Friends. She had this stitched up there, and I kept hemming and hawing if I wanted to buy it, but I really had a big enough stack, and I didn't buy it. And so when I came home, I looked to see what did I have from her, and did I have this? And I do. And I really want to do it. So I've become fascinated with foxes, not because the motif is popular right now or was recently, but I had a pair of foxes who built their den like 15 feet from my family room window. So I've had a little fox family out back, watching the little pups come out that aren't even red yet. Their coats are still brown and they're so fuzzy looking and they're so much fun to watch play. They have disappeared now. They disappeared before I went to Canada. It was probably about time for them to start to wander more, but I think my neighbor's dogs may have scared them, so they may have just moved too. They weren't weaned yet, but I haven't. I'm picking them up occasionally on my cameras out back at night, but I haven't seen them in the day in like a month. So they've ventured on. But my neighbor has two big dogs, and one of them had some kind of surgery. So she was only going out on a leash, and not on this side, really. Well, she's now back. She's recovered, and she's the one that spots things. The other dog is really sweet. She's big as well, but she's a little dense. She doesn't spot things. And so I think the one, when she recuperated, it probably only took a day or two for her to spot them and come up to the property line and start barking and scare the foxes off. So I think that's probably what happened. This next one is a Tiny Modernist, and I actually bought fabric and floss to do this one. This one is called Autumn Night Garden, and I kitted this up. I don't know when it's going to get started, but I'm ready. The fabric is a mystery. No, I think it's Billie Jean. No, it's Night Owl. So this is the fabric. It's a really dark, it's darker looking in person than it is on camera. The camera's really kept picking up the late mottled spots, and in person that's a little more subtle, and the whole thing is a bit darker. But it's called Night Owl. It's beautiful. It is a dark bluish gray. It's a pretty true gray. I shouldn't say it's bluish. And I just picked out flosses. So this isn't the called for. Tiny Modernist may always be just DMC. I think hers are always just DMC. But I picked out these to do it with. And I think I had some dream that I would stitch it up while I was there. I don't know what I was thinking. So I bought way too much. And started too many things. I'll get them done. Not this weekend. So this weekend, my dad is getting married on Saturday. So I have that happening. I need to get some yard work done. And Sunday, I have a friend is having a barbecue. So I've got a lot happening this weekend. I'm not sure how much stitching I'm even going to get done this weekend now that I think about it. So that might be all the stitching I get done for a while. This next one, so I bought this fabric from a vendor there. This is the last thing I'm going to show. It's painted fabric. And it is bright. Well, actually, maybe the camera is picking it up right. So it's not all the way through. If you wanted it more subtle, I guess you could use the back. But I bought this for a specific reason. When I was at Gita's, She had a lot of X's and O's patterns. So X's and O's, they are a Canadian designer. So she had all of them, and that was why I bought it when I was there. I have seen X's and O's patterns here in the US, but you know, it seems fitting to buy it there. They had, in Gita's, she has this stitched up. And stitched up, it reminded me so much of Touching the Autumn Sky from Mirabilia, which is one of the unicorn patterns. It's impossible to find. It sells for like $150. It looked so much like that, and I was like, oh, stitching that up might like just cure me of wanting to stitch the Touching the Autumn Sky. So I bought this when I was at Gita's, and then when I was at the retreat and saw this painted fabric, I thought, oh, that could be perfect for that Touching the Autumn Sky. So that's what I intend to do with this. Both will be purchased in Canada. I will have to put in the comments who this fabric was from because I don't have the tag. I took it out of the packaging and I don't remember her name. But really nice people. They've got all the edges serged. So this will be like my Canada stitching whenever I get to it. My only thing, it's a little stiff. I like to have my fabric pulled as tight as possible. So stiff doesn't bother me. If you stitch in hand, you probably, unless you're comfortable stitching on stiff fabric in hand, which most of the people I know that stitch in hand prefer a softer fabric, you wouldn't necessarily want to stitch this. I'm also not sure, because it is stiff, what it's colored with or how archival this dyeing process is. So I don't think I would buy a piece of this fabric and stitch something like a full Mirabilia lady, you know, something with thousands of hours in it, because I don't know what this fabric will do over time. But this X's and O's guy is actually not that much work. So, but I'll put the link. It's beautiful fabric, and she had some other really cool painted fabrics as well. Some that were like tan and orange on the bottom and blue at the top, so it could be the beach with the sky, or you could flip it the other way and it was blue sky and then the sunset at the top. So really pretty fabrics, but I picked that out specifically because I had just bought the Touching the Autumn Sky the day before. So that is all of my stitching, all of my shopping. I have a tiny bit of shopping that I'll show on my next video. It's the few other things I bought at Gita's and a couple things I picked up at the attic, and one thing that I bought when I was antiquing. I didn't buy much antiquing. I just like to look more than anything. Yeah, I think that's everything that's going on. I do have some patriotic stitching. That's my plan. I need to get in some mental health care. Wait. I'm trying to remember. It's the stitch along. Mental health care Sal. I got it right. Mental health care Sal stitching done. I have my piece out. I just haven't stitched on it yet. Some patriotic stitching. And I need to get back to my From Toledo to Toledo. And I wouldn't mind getting a little more in on Cornwall Cottage Sampler. So that's my loose stitchy plans. Mine are a little fluid. It can be whatever the mood strikes, but that's generally what I'm planning on stitching over the next couple weeks. So thanks for visiting. Don't forget to get your comment in, either Tiny, if you're interested in the 2 Tiny Modernist patterns, or sand if you're interested in the Bestitch Me fabric, or you can put both in if you're interested in both or either of those. And I'll do the drawings for the next video. And yeah, I think that's everything for this evening. So happy stitching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.